Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of this event for having me here. It's a wonderful experience, and also I feel it's an honor to address the cream of our country who are building systems, making it work, and most of the time it works. I know that. Sometimes it doesn't work, but it's okay. So I think it's an honor to be here, right? So with that, a little about me. I'm sure we spoke about it. Things what you don't know about me. I'm not only working as a banker. I also do other things. By the way, even though I'm a banker, I have engineering background. I have done coding long time ago, and probably I have done coding before you all born. So I have a coding background, so I'm pretty much connected to what you all are doing, and that's why I was very interested in coming and talking to you guys. So I do a bit of running. I also play golf. Not a professional sailor, but I had done that a little bit. I've done this as well. And I do diving. I do photographs. And some of the photographs I had taken. Okay, so getting back to the theme of your conference, Beyond the Trend, I think it's a very interesting and very timely topic. So I thought I'll go a little beyond and talk about, I would say trend is now exponential, thanks to people like you. You build amazing systems, you build amazing platforms to make this work. Okay, so what is exponential? We all have done maths, right? That straight line red one is y equals mx plus c or something like that, if I remember right. It just happens, which is very predictable. Like you know what is going to happen next day or next year or next month, right? But when you talk about exponential, it can take a shape like this. It can start slowly, but it can go and grow exponentially. So that's the topic this evening. So if I give you a bit of a human perspective to this, so if I just walk 30 meters, I'll end up doing 30 meters of walk. That's again very predictable. But if you go to the exponential world, so I'll do 1, the next one is 2, then 2 become 4, 4 become 8. And if you do this 30 times, any guesses how many meters you will end up walking? Any guesses? It's 2 to the power of 30. Okay. It's 1 billion meters. So this is the world we live in. And so whatever you do exponentially 30 times, this is the result. And that's good enough to go around the world 26 times. So you guys actually build systems to make this happen. I mean, that's why this is a very interesting topic to me. I was very passionate about exponential growth because I saw this happening, and to some extent we all do that, but probably we didn't know. So the humans, from its inception, maybe billions years ago, we have seen our local environment, and we want to predict things like what's going to happen tomorrow. Would I have food tomorrow? Would I have not have any dangerous event in my life? We want to predict things. So we had a very local and a linear thinking. So we are wired that way. Our DNA is still, it's like that. But for good or bad, the world is not so, thanks to technologies like all of you here, right? So things are now changing exponentially, but things are also got out of your control now. It's no longer local, it's global. So if you see, I'm sure all of you have seen this somewhere, right? And it's very popular slide to show what's going around the world. So airline industry has taken 6 years to reach 50 million customers. And the automobiles, 62, and if you list goes on, and things close to our heart, the credit card, television has taken 22 years to reach 50 million customers. Then we had, somewhere we saw internet coming. Internet came, and it took 7 years. So after that, most of the things happened in the world became pretty fast. And Facebook took 3 years, Twitter took 17 months, Pokemon took 19 days. So that's all because of people like you, right? So things are now changing exponentially. It's no longer linear, no longer local. All of you have seen these two companies in Sri Lanka. They compete with each other. That's how we think. Actually, their competition is not necessarily local. They compete with this guy as well. So when I was a kid, I went to the boarding school. So my father ordered a telephone. So that came actually after 13 years. By then I had finished school and university, I started working as well. Why? It was, at that time, nothing was exponential. But when you think back, so Sri Lanka Telecom used to be called Department of Telecommunication at the time. It was a state-owned organization. So they provided voice services, like we can talk to anyone, but very limited at that time. And then came the text, SMSs, video, audio. So, I mean, they continue to provide the services, but from nowhere, WhatsApp came and do the same thing. So the point what I want to make here is your competition, or rather your collaboration is no longer local, it's global. So people have no idea how fast these things are changing. Actually, the world is changing almost every day. And sometimes you don't realize how fast it's changing. Okay, we'll look at something that has happened over the last centuries. So life expectancy, which is very close to humans. So our average life expectancy has been around 40 years. But somewhere around 1900s and somewhere around close to 2000, it took an exponential increase. Why? Again, the technologies came into health industry, and we knew how human body works. We understood. We can even edit now DNA. You know, a lot of things happen. So thanks to that, we were able to have a better life. So our life is actually getting extended now. In fact, now people say 100 years will be your 60 very soon. So this is not only in the world, we had the same experience in Sri Lanka also. I went through a lot of research to find this out. In fact, in 1960, our average life in Sri Lanka has been about 60 something. Now it has gone to almost 75. It's on the rise. So this is exponential changes happening to all of us. The poverty. So again, if you look at 1850s, the poverty was coming down very slowly, but somewhere around year 2000 picked up. It came down dramatically because we were in a connected world. We were able to communicate, share, and explore new opportunities to bring down problems like this. So we have brought almost to zero level. The same trend follows in Sri Lanka. So I'm happy to say Sri Lanka has 21 million population, but our poverty index is almost 4.1%. That's 450,000 people. I mean, it's a tremendous achievement of complex Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka in a bit of a transition at the moment. So our economy is transitioning from rural to urban. That's again because we have our education system working, and there are people like all of you here doing new things, different things, better things. So we were able to catch up that. So as I said, poverty decreased. So we crossed $4,000 mark in 2018. So we are no longer a developing or poor country. So we are a upper income country. So GNI also crossed $4,000. Now same GDP growth has been again, you can see this whole exponential thing happening to us. So again, I think this is because of application of technologies and new things coming into our life. Even death rate has gone down. I mean, obviously it's the opposite of what we spoke earlier. And look at what has happened to the automobile and the airline industry. The number of accidents and the deaths caused by accidents has come down virtually to zero. Still, the flying is the most safest way of going from one place to the other. But with the introduction of self-driving cars, which is almost in production to come out now, I mean, it's being tested most of the places now in the world, so this will come down. So what does all this mean to human beings? I think we can live longer, we can live safely, and we can focus on things what matters to humans and for betterment of mankind. The same thing again, things are going down dramatically. Okay, now we get to the exact point what I want to say. I mean, I show a lot of things because I want to tell you all, thanks to people like you, things are happening exponentially. So this is nothing but the one and only reason is its exponential growth is because of technology. So you have to produce more and more technology to make this world a better place. So we have, I think I'm sure, seen these things happening. The fast, cheaper computing power has given us better networks, better sensors, robotics, 3D printing, synthetic biology, material science, all that. So it gave us also unexpected convergent consequences. So actually it created new business models and ecosystems. That's what you all are building, right? Maybe someday you don't know, you may be building a little bit somewhere for someone, but actually this is what you all have been doing. I think you all are a great bunch of people. So world is changing faster than you think, and this converging technology, it's not just one technology, right? So there have been a lot of research and development on many types of technologies. It's not only computing. Computing may be part of that. So a lot has happened on even, as I said, you can edit your DNA now. I mean, you can have a ready-made baby pretty soon, okay? So this is convergence of technologies has come to this. Okay, where did this start? So this is Gord Moore. He's one of the co-founders of Intel. Back in 1965, he presented a paper, and he said he has tracked from 1958, more of, I think, the beginning of Intel. He said every year he has seen they were able to integrate more transistors into chips, integrated circuits, that was getting double. It again, we go back to this whole exponential things I was talking about. So he said, he made a statement, he said 1958 to 65, it was growing exponentially, but he said it is likely to continue. Has that happened? Yes, it has happened. So if you go to pre-Intel, so the computers were built using electromechanical gadgets. Not sure how many you have seen. I have seen. Then we had relays and vacuum tube. I have seen, I have touched as well. Then came the transistor way back in 1960s. So that's how this whole revolution of technology exploded. So his prediction, and to date, it's hold good. So still we are growing exponentially on integrated circuits and so on. And it's going to go beyond, and we don't know where we'll end up. So just to give you a bit of a context to this, in 1958, the very first integrated circuit or the chip had only 2 transistors. So if I fast forward to 2016, also cutting across 1971, when you produce the Intel 4004 processor, and then going to Intel Core i7, which most of you we know, it has created 80K faster processor and 4.2 million times cheaper, 330 billion fold improvement in 45 years. So obviously, even though humans are not wired to do things exponentially, the technology now is our brother, sister, cousin. They can help us make this work. So can this continue? So most technologies or most businesses, most products, it hit this one. You know, you have a slow start, then it takes off. Somehow you reach your more like maturity, then most industries goes down. This is what has happened in the past, but not any longer. We look at something close to all of us. Take the internet connectivity. When we started way back, we had a dial-up connection. Everyone remember this kind of thing, right? Then came DSL. Then came cable modem. So now we have fiber optics. So what has happened here, you know, before they hit their maturity, they found a new one. So then overall, you keep on growing always. So we found technologies to find something. The good news is, we actually design and build the next generation computing using the current versions. So that was good enough to create the next version. So this is how the internet industry works. So this is not the end of the story. We all know now 5G is out. In fact, Sri Lanka did their 5G trials, and it was so amazing. I went to see the launch at Dialog. It's unbelievably fast. So they were able to play a group. The singer was elsewhere, the group was right in Ranway, but they were able to sing the songs. I think it was so amazing. So I'm looking forward to 5G. So very soon everyone will be connected to a gigabit speed. So what will do this to us? So back in year 2000, we had only 6% internet penetration. In 2010, it reached 23%. So we're somewhere around 66% now. So this 66% represents 3 billion people across the globe. So I go back to again, don't think locally, you're global now. Your competition comes from somewhere globally. Your collaboration comes somewhere from maybe Africa, maybe the Middle East, maybe Latin America. So these 3 billion new minds, just imagine the space you're talking about. So half of them do e-commerce transactions. The economy will be much bigger, massive than what we have. So connected world can give you exponential growth in everywhere, be it business, be it collaboration, be it education, anything. So all these guys, including these guys, are doing all sorts of things to connect the whole world. So if that happens sooner, you will not only have 3 billion people, by 2010 you will have 5 billion people, new minds coming online, and then the entire will be connected. So when you reach this point, I think the world we are going to live in is totally different, right? So your colleague who you think your friend may be a sort of a digital colleague living in somewhere else, and you work together, right? So this will give rise to a totally different world. So we'll get together, we'll co-create, we discover new things, we consume, and we invent. So we will create a totally different world, right? So you don't have to go to the university to learn. I mean, even now it's happening in a very subtle way, right? So we will have a totally different world, right? Because there's an exponential rise of internet connectivity. So future will be a perfect place to know. In fact, even now, if you want to know anything, I mean, you can just Google, and Google will, depending on your profile, they will suggest few things, and you can learn new things. I mean, I learned a lot of things which I never thought I would ever learn because there's Google. And so we will all know many things what we want to know instantaneously. To the extent you don't have to know, I mean, you can get to know whenever you want. Like it's service on demand. Okay, so I'm sure all of you have seen this very famous, the whole world has seen this. So this digital world created a new paradigm. So the Facebook and the Alibabas, Airbnbs, they created business models which never thought would exist, neither we never thought that we can create. So can Airbnb go and create a hotel chain or rather provide accommodation across the whole world without having a single room? I mean, I thought it will occur to anyone maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but it has happened. So the world has completely changed. So I think the Alibabas, Facebook did the same thing. So this made some interesting changes in terms of finance, balance sheets and all that. You look at BMW, founded in 1916 with 125,000 employees. So their market cap is still 60 billion. The Uber, a similar operation, they provide transportation services, started in 2009, 10% less employees, 48 billion market cap. So can you do this? If not, exponential growth, exponential technologies, exponential tools. So exponential growth, whatever it takes, I think has given totally different business models as well as it's totally different world altogether. So look at Marriott, set up in 1927, 227,000 employees globally, still 51 billion. Airbnb came from nowhere, started in a garage, I think, 5,000 employees, 31 billion. So list goes on. I mean, we have enough and more examples to say what's happening around the world and what all these technologies are doing to us. But you are playing a role, right? I think the fundamental of all this is actually coding. So that way I think all of us should be very proud of ourselves making this happen, for better, of course. So this also gave rise to platform economies. In fact, Airbnbs, Ubers, all of them are platform economies. So in simply put it, platform is nothing but you establish a digital platform where you connect your producers, consumers, whoever wants to participate in the process. It gives you power to interact, not only join, and these platforms are actually taking over the rest of the world now. So what is a platform? It's a business based on value creation, value creating interaction between producers and consumers. It makes it so easy to talk to someone to get a job done. So platforms provide open, participative infrastructure for interaction and govern them. So it's more like a very self-governed thing, and you don't need a policeman to do that. Now, for an example, you take Airbnb. If you book a room somewhere anywhere in the world, I'm sure before we do, if you have used Airbnb, before we do that, we do research of, who is this host? I mean, are they good? What are the things what they like or don't like? I mean, are there any limitations, restrictions, all that? Like, you know exactly place where you're going to live. You can see pictures of the rooms, the bathrooms, everything. So before platform economies came to this world, or digital came to this world, we did not know. It's a very blank feeling. You go and land in something, then you figure out, okay, my bathroom is not good today. But you can do that. In fact, over and above that, people write reviews about saying, this host is the most fascinating person I have seen in my life. More like my mother. People write things like that. Similarly, if you are a bad guest, you also get messed up. They will write reviews about it saying, okay, this guy is not a great guy, so do not enter him. Your rating is basically 1 on a 1 to 5 scale. So it works both ways. And it leverages network effects. And one of the most interesting features to me, it matches your needs and it facilitates the exchange of goods and services. For an example, if I want to go to a budget hotel, I have only $10 to spend, I can find a room. Earlier there was no way. I mean, you had to call maybe 100 people to figure it out, and even having done all that, you don't know where you will end up in. Okay? So it facilitates that whole process. So I mean, it's a pretty different experience, but you get what you want. As I said, it also eliminates all the gatekeepers. But having said that, sometimes I also can see there are digital gatekeepers coming in, and that may be unavoidable because they build platforms, they facilitate various processes in the platform. So if I draw your attention to this, what can a platform do to make this whole thing exponential expansion? So if you take 2 phones, if you take the analogy, you can do only 1 interaction. I can make just 1 call between 2. But if you have 5 phones, you can do 10 interactions. If you have 12 phones, you have 66 interactions. So you connect your nodes in a linear manner, but your connections goes up exponentially. So this, from a business perspective, take a very simple example. So I mean, all the banks got a mobile banking app, internet bank or something. What do you do? Actually, you connect the customer with your bank, but it also allows customer to interact with another person to do a funds transfer or request money or pay someone who has done some work for you. So that's an interaction. So all these platforms can create that huge number of interactions that create business value. And the moment you start creating this, people do that more. Now I'm sure after Airbnb, Ubers came to this world, we started doing more of the same which we did not do earlier. We spoke about this. I think the model is pretty familiar to all of us. It's creating value, and it gives you positive feedback, and it also creates interestingly, it's if you look at the good old economics, room in a hotel, if it is, I mean, straight is an asset, you generate income out of it. But in a house, it was not, can be considered an asset, but it was liability. You just keep on maintaining, but there's no one using. So you were able to earn income out of something what you never thought you can earn. So your room can be rented, you have additional income now. So Airbnb created that platform. So this created a bit of a problem for a lot of accountants. I don't think there are accountants here, but there are maybe at least few. So if you go back to 1975, of S&P 500 companies in the US, so their intangibles were about 17%. Because of platforms, because of technology, because of exponential growth, in 2015, it recorded 87% intangible value. So what does it mean? You don't have physical assets like Facebook, like Uber, like Airbnb, but your company value is so huge because they create value without having assets. I mean, that's amazing. You use someone else's property and you make money. Okay, there are a few other things also help this whole process. That's obviously internet and smartphones. So smartphone put the internet in everyone's pocket. Smartphone is a part of everyday life. Without that, I don't think I can live. And App Store and Google Pay changed the way software was created and distributed. There were no CDs, there were no tapes and things like that going around now to install software. It's all App Store. And we do look at this phone 50 to 100 times a day. Actually, this could be on 200. I'm sure. This can't be on this. But this is the number I found. And in fact, it changed the way we work and how even people work. Look at this photograph. I'm sure there may be few Catholics here. So in 2005, when the Pope Benedict was announced, this is how people celebrated. You can see people taking flags and waving around and say, hey, we have a new Pope. 2013, Pope Francis. World is changed. So the way we work and live completely got changed thanks to technology and thanks to internet and smartphones. So it's not only people getting connected, we are connecting everything everywhere. So by 2020, it's estimated that there will be 20 billion plus connected devices with 1 trillion sensors. By 2030, the number goes up to 500 billion plus and 100 trillion sensors. So the world is getting connected, not only people, everything everywhere. So McKinsey estimates this whole thing to be a 6.2 trillion economy by 2025. It's 5 years from now. If you're part of that, I think you're going to be very rich. I'm sure most of you may be doing something with this. So car data will generate 750 billion revenue by 2030 because you have most accurate data of how you drive, whether you drink drive, and I mean all these things will be connected or rather collected. So your insurance premium, your everything what is to with your car will be gathered. So you will have a new economy thanks to this. So this is not only happening in elsewhere, it's happening in Sri Lanka as well. So we have lots of leisure sector, particularly Booking.com, Airbnb, and things like that. So if you go back to 2013 in Sri Lanka, we had only 334 listings, but that's gone up to 7,075 by 2018. I think all of you, if not most of you, have created some booking engine for this to happen in Sri Lanka. It's not only the global sites, it's happening in Sri Lanka as well. So this is my favorite one. This is my own one. So I want to tell you this story. We launched this UPay a few months back. Now I want to test myself. I went and did this analysis. So the blue line is my good old bank. Okay. So I did this analysis when we reached 16,000 users on UPay platform. So we had taken 145 to get there. The same, we had taken 530 days to get 16,000 customers by signing documents and going by branch to branch or house to house. We have taken, so it's a massive efficiency gain. And if you look at carefully, the last 1,000 of the UPay has come from 144th day to 145th day. So we have got 1,000 customers in one go, in one day. I don't think that was possible with anything else. So is exponential growth happening to my bank? Yes, it's happening. So good news. Okay, so there are a few other factors note. Cost of memory. In 1956, it was $120,000 for 5 megabytes of RAM. I don't know anyone can understand even that. Even I can't understand now. So in 2005, it went to 128 megabytes, $99. Price came down substantially. And in 2014, they produced 128 gigabytes. That's what we have now, right? That is again the same price, but it's 1,000 times expansion in terms of memory capacity and same price. So similarly, storage cost performance from 1992 to 2005 come down virtual to zero. I think thanks to cloud mostly. Similarly, computing cost performance has come down virtually to zero. Bandwidth, again, has come down. And computing power, calculation per second per $1,000 computer, again, has gone down. This is exactly what Moore said in 1965. I don't know what he saw, seriously, but it's still happening. Okay, so this, everything what we spoke all this while, has given rise to exponential growth. So one thing to note is exponential growth does not happen just like that on the day one. It takes little while to take off, but once it came to a particular point, it takes off and it becomes a disruption. So that's the term we always use, we disrupt the industry, or we disrupt our own thing, or create a new industry. All that happens at that point. That's thanks to all these factors we spoke. So this also has challenges now. This challenge can happen to anyone, can happen to banks, can happen to any industry. So average lifespan of a company listed in S&P 500 in 1920 is 67 years. Now it's 15 years. So you will not exist unless you do something almost every year to exist. Remember the internet, that S-curve, they found new technologies and it went on, and almost now, they are almost come to 5G. So unless we find our own 5Gs, we will end up in 15 years. Unless you have made some millions of dollars to retire, I think that's fine. But if you want to keep going, you have to find something, maybe not 15 years, maybe every 5 years now. So in 10 years, it's predicted that 40% of the Fortune 500 companies will no longer exist. I'm sure we have heard this story, but let me repeat. So Kodak was a great company. So they had nice, beautiful cameras with a film roll. I'm not sure whether some of you have seen, but I have seen, I have used. So you take a picture, but you don't know what actually you took. So you take the film roll, your cover, if you expose it, that's gone. You could take it to a dark room, and you have to process that using some chemical process. Then they can print photographs the same way we print now, but it's slightly different process. Then only you know, okay, my face is there, I didn't blink. Just imagine you took a wedding photograph like that, I think you can be in trouble, right? So that was basically Kodak's fundamental or primary business. So in 1996, it was 28 billion and employees 140,000. But sadly, they went bankrupt in 2012. The story goes like this. Why they went bankrupt was because of digital cameras. But the irony of this whole story is they invented the digital camera back in 1975. And the engineers who invented this went to the boardroom, but it was slightly bulky. Actually it's bulky. But it was more of a starting point of a new world, new thing. So they went and demonstrated how it works. Actually, it's a black and white camera. The board of directors said, look, you guys are crazy. Don't do this. You're going to kill our own business. And don't do that. Basically, it's a discourage. So that finally led the bankruptcy of Kodak. So famous Kodak moment happened in 2012, right? They no longer exist. But of the same year, a similar company involved in photography and images, videos, and things like a company called Instagram, with 13 employees, they got acquired by Facebook for 1 billion rupees. That's $1 billion. So how did that happen? Because they had technology and they had embraced technology and made a platform out of it. So they were able to make a lot of money. So Kodak could not move from linear to exponential. That killed their own company. Okay, so exponential world goes through a few 6 steps. Give you a bit of a academic, but it's practical as well. So I think to make this work, I think anything first you have to digitize. You take a book, you go and buy a book from a bookstore. It's yours. You can touch, feel, you can read whenever you want, you can carry it. But if you digitize this, put this on Amazon and allow people to download soft copies and read on their tabs, now you have digitized. It's a very simple form of digitization. So once that is done, you empower basically the whole world to go and read that book. It does not belong to one person. It's very common. So once it's digitized, if you want to take this whole exponential route, it goes to a stage called deceptive growth. So deceptive growth is nothing but it happens, but it happens very slowly. You don't know what's happening. Now, for an example, if you take solar energy, it's 2% of the energy market in the world now. Okay, but it has taken 20 years, so still it is deceptive. But if you follow the same exponential growth for solar energy, they have to double their effort, I think 6 times, sorry, 6 times in 12 years, they will have 100% market share of energy in the whole world. Okay, theoretically you can't get 100% market share, still you will find few others like hydro and things like that. But you need only doubling 6 times to get to that level. Now, but they have spent 20 years to get to 2%, right? So that is deceptive. So it will not grow fast, but it's happening. Okay. Then it comes to the stage of disruption. So that is where we create new business models like Airbnbs, Ubers, all that came. So that is where you go to the whole, it become a very global nature, and it is all over the place. Everyone will talk about it, and it will start happening now. So that's a disruption stage. Then it comes to a point called dematerialization. So by the way, I want to show this slide. Sri Lanka's mobile phone growth also had a disruption. It went through a similar period. I think you can see at the very initial stage, 2000, 2001, it was very deceptive. It didn't grow, but all of a sudden it took off. One reason is competition. I think there were more players came in, and the cost of mobile phones, cost of the airtime came down dramatically. That helped this curve to go up. Okay, so what is dematerialization? It went like this. So if you take your phone, you have all these gadgets. You have your voice recorder, you have your music player, you have video recorder, you have camera, everything. So your physical things like what you see here will disappear. Now everything is on your phone. So materials are no longer required, but it's similar or better service available in your phone. So this happens. That's the next stage. Then we come to a stage called demonetization. It's virtually free. So now for an example, for you to use Skype, you can make the same long distance call which you could not make earlier unless you do a international direct dialing call and spend a lot of money. Now you can do it free. So virtually it comes to a point where it's available free. Like Google search is free. And okay, so this also presents, I think, interesting thing for all of us. Sometimes you might see world biggest problems. For example, we spoke about poverty earlier. If you think it's the biggest problem, it's also biggest world's opportunities. Now, I'm sorry, I think I missed some slide. Okay. Now, once you identify these business opportunities, you can have experiments, you can do experiments, you can have crazy ideas. In fact, I'm sure Airbnb would have been a crazy idea. If you read their history, it was just, they want to provide a breakfast and a mattress for one of the Obama's conventions. That's how it started. It was just silly idea, finally took off. So if you look at this carefully, now since the platforms, since technologies, all that is available, any crazy idea can be converted to a business. So these are the companies who got valued 1 billion valuation. In 2011, if you take, the space is not very crowded, but you go all the way to 2015, there are so many companies are valued more than $1 billion now. But they appear to be crazy ideas, but they can be game changers. So this brings to end of my presentation, if I have not missed any slides. So ladies and gentlemen, we are living during the most amazing time ever to be alive. So do not blink. So create amazing systems, create amazing platforms, ensure your customer systems are up and running, not most of the time, all the time. Because today, 99.9 is actually not good. Why I'm saying this one, even it's not good for you. Would you ever go to a hospital where it says our service is 99% guaranteed? Especially you will not take your old mother or father, or if you're just about to deliver a baby, you will not go to a hospital like that. So same thing is applicable to technologies and technology systems as well. So guys, I think you all are doing a lot of work on this. So my humble request is 99.9 is not good, so get to 100%. Thank you very much.